I'm gonna have to edit this because I'm being eaten by mosquitoes. Welcome to Project Live Different. We have one rule here, that's for you to take something away from this video. I don't care what it is, but if it betters your life, that's what's most important to me. So let's get right on into it. We've kind of talked about in the previous video. If you saw it, if you haven't, go back and take a look at what Project Live Different really is. Where Project Live Different came from was a series of massive tragedies of what I considered in my own personal life. Back in 2019, I was actually running VP for 2 separate companies, making over $250,000 a year. I decided to let one go and return to the other. And when I returned to the other, some things unfolded where I got fired. I got fired for something called lack of leadership. It's a generic termination term. There was some disagreements on how things should be run between me and the owner. But the bottom line is I lost it. At first, I was very upset with the situation. I didn't want to take responsibility. I had lost everything, both my jobs, and didn't know how I was going to make ends meet. I had just bought and moved into that June a $500,000 home, which back at 2019 seemed like a lot. And everything was crumbling around me. So my wife and I got it together, and I happened to put in an audition and became a speaker and trainer for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi's KBB program, which was amazing. And then I started my own company, own business in December of 2019, which was completely taken away when COVID happened. In a matter of a year, I lost everything twice. No idea how I was going to put food on the table. Had no online connections, didn't know how to network without being in person, and I thought everything was lost. So I started driving Uber and Lyft just to put money on the table. I knew I could trade my time for money, and it was the favorite job that I've ever had in my entire life. I met thousands of people over the course of a couple of years and learned that we all had a lot more in common than we did different. Then I started coaching again for Tony and Dean, working with millionaires and entrepreneurs and people that invested tens of thousands of dollars to sit at the table with us and be coached by us. And something came around. I realized something. It wasn't the differences that made us or the similarities that made us, it's how we handled the obstacles that were set in front of us. All of us had ways of moving forward. We all had ways of achieving our goals, but what made us so similar was how we handled obstacles, or more importantly, how we failed to handle obstacles. So Project Live Different was born as a series of how to achieve any goal you want to achieve. And we tested it. We put it in the hands of 100 people, 90 of which use it, and everyone saw massive improvements in their life because everything we do is action-oriented. And that created the 5-ish pillars of thinking different and living different. But there's something more to it. We have to define what success and happiness look like for ourselves, and that is one of the pillars, but you don't have to do that to start getting progression today. In fact, that's actually one of the hardest things to do. You'll notice that if you go online, people are selling you a dream. They're selling you a lifestyle, the 4-hour work week, make $10,000 a week, $1,000 extra dollars a month, $1,000 extra dollars a week. Do these things and make extra money. Because right now, the times are tough, and right now, everything is geared towards money, and they're not wrong. However, if you ever buy one of these programs, you're going to notice something. The first half of the program of anything of do our system and become successful, it's all mindset. And the reason why, they know that if you don't have the right mindset and you don't put in the work, their systems fail. So I looked at those things and I was looking at my coaching and I realized something. Whether you're making $12 to $15 an hour and trying to get promoted or go back to college and get a degree to get a specific career, or you're trying to start your own business or starting to go into network marketing, or of any of the things that put your destiny in your own hands, the interesting thing that you're going to find is going to be the fact that you're going to have to make a decision on where you want to go. And if you're going to do those decisions and make that call and move yourself forward, there's something else that's more important: how to get there. Because what you define as success and happiness is a skill within itself. But I want you to be able to see progress in your life, which is what we're here to talk about today. The pillars of what success and happiness are built upon. Once you define success and happiness, if you don't have the pillars, it doesn't matter what kind of architectural plan you build for yourself, you'll never have the tools to get there. We need the shovels, the hammers, the axes, there's some old school tools, with all the new school tools to get there. So, where do we begin? Well, when I was 16, I was in a car accident. I got rear-ended. I've told this story countless times, but what happened was when I got home and having dinner, I told my mom, at least it wasn't my fault. And she's like, well, how do you suppose it wasn't your fault? I was like, because I was rear-ended. She's like, okay, I see how you could see that. But could you have looked in your mirror and saw them coming? Yes, I could. Okay, well, could you have moved out of the way when they came up behind you and were going to hit you? Yes, I could, but I shouldn't have to. And she goes, I didn't ask you if you shouldn't have to, or I asked you, could you have? And I was like, well, yes, I could have, but I shouldn't have to. She's like, it doesn't matter. There's something you could have done. I remember throwing my fork down and storming off. What she was trying to teach me at that time was to see things for what they were, not better and not worse. She was trying to get me to take a situation and see how my actions portrayed into that situation and what I could have done differently. But here's the real key to this idea. When you see things for what they are, not better, not worse, you're removing your perspective from the scenario. When you're not clouding your vision of your life through your own perspective, whether good or bad, all of a sudden, you have the ability to take control. Most of us think of the things that happen to us, our circumstances, as the things that defined us, that have placed us at the point on the map of life where you are. Life is a map. Your circumstances, your current location, and it has to do with everything that you had happen to you in the past and all the choices you've made up to this point. So when you remove your perspective and you look at your circumstance just in its entirety, you'll be amazed at how things go. So I want you to keep that in mind. Seeing things for what they are. Not better, not worse. You lose your job. That's all that it is. A loss of a job. You need to find another one. All of a sudden someone betrays you. Well, you have a choice to make. Is that betrayal going to cause you to lose their friendship or not? Did they really betray you? Or is it just the circumstances that are provided look like betrayal? The actions that they made just don't align with yours. Did a friend do something that irritates you? They didn't show up to your birthday party. So what? Does it really matter? Do you really need them to be there to be your friend or not? Seeing things for what they are, not better, not worse, removes your perspective and puts things as facts only. Now here's the thing. If you don't like that circumstance, if it is something that is happening to you that you're not happy with, you have to take the next step. How did your actions contribute? This is pillar number 2. You have to look at everything in your life through the idea of what actions are occurring that contributed to your circumstance. When I was in my car accident, there were actions that I could have taken to actually avoid that. In addition to that, if I wouldn't have been driving to my friend's house, it wouldn't have happened. If I would have taken a different route, it wouldn't have happened. If I would have left school on time, it wouldn't have happened. If I would have stayed and actually talked to the teacher that asked for me to talk to them, it wouldn't have happened. There was other actions in that circumstance that led to it actually occurring. There were things that I could have done differently, whether it be my fault or not, that allows me to take control of that circumstance. Therefore, when I'm put into similar circumstances in the future, I know what actions I can take to get a different outcome. Sometimes this is incredibly uncomfortable because it means that we have to take ownership for things that clearly were not our fault, but we're only doing that to empower ourselves. The moment we see how our actions affected a circumstance, it allows us to change our actions going forward. If we never look at our actions based upon the circumstances that happened, then we never give the power back to ourselves. So the second pillar is understanding how our actions affect our circumstances that we are currently in. There are certain circumstances that you will never be able to choose where you were born, who you were born to, what country you were born in, the circumstances of your birth itself. Those are all things that you will never have control over. However, every decision that you made from that point forward, especially once you gained autonomy, that's what puts you where you are now. So just keep that in mind. So once we understand our circumstances and how our actions choose where we're going to go, the next thing we have to do is decide where we want to go. Now, I'm not talking the big goals. I'm not trying to define your why. I'm not trying to get you to figure it all out. What I'm doing is just set a goal. Set a goal somewhere out there so you can start moving towards it. The reason why is because if you have no goals, if you don't actually set a goal, you will remain stagnant because your actions just need to maintain the status quo. Setting a goal changes the status quo, and you are not in the status quo until you reach the goal. And once you reach the goal, set another goal. This is one of the most important things because you have to decide where you want to go in life. If you never make that decision, you're going to stay where you're at. And the scariest part is the world is going to change and move around you. If you never move, where you're standing today will be different just by the nature of how our world works. The world changes so fast that change is inevitable. So start creating your own change by setting your own destinations. Pillar number 3. Pillar number 4, be in action, be in motion. Once you set a goal, all you have to do is take the smallest steps possible towards your goal. If you can move towards your goal, no matter how small, doors and opportunities around you will start to open up. You will meet new people, new things will be learned by you, you will acquire new skill sets, even the ones that are just by happenstance that will open doors and give you opportunities that you've never had before. But if you're not in motion, your opportunities are only limited by the change that happens around you. The change that is happening around you by happenstance, by the people that you are allowing in your life because you don't have any other choices, will limit your opportunity. People that are in dire straits, you're the ones that have to change the most and move the fastest, and it's the most painful because everything around you is trying to hold you down. Once you become in motion, it becomes easy to stay in motion, but that's simply by taking action. The 5th pillar is by using change and habits together. If your habits that you create for yourself are self-reinforcing and benefit you and move you towards your goals, you can never be stagnant. The example is this. Most of us use habits at the New Year's. We're going to get in shape. We tried to pick a habit that is painful to every part of our being. Getting up and early in the morning and working out creates pain. We have to have discipline to push through that pain, looking at the pleasure on the other side. Let's be truthful. A lot of us don't have the discipline to move past that pain and pleasure, nor do we have the habit creation skills to be able to do that. Nor have we seen enough positive results from our own habits and our own decisions to see how that reflects on us. What I'm saying is we need to start somewhere, or you should start somewhere that basically gives you something by having a habit. The example that I use is this. I am not a morning person. Therefore, I set my clothes out in the morning. I set my toothbrush out in the morning. I have everything prepared. So when I wake up, getting ready is easy. If I don't remember to do that, my morning sucks. So all I do is have a habit that allows me to have an easier morning. It's a self-reinforcing habit. The act of not doing the habit actually creates pain. The act of doing the habit takes a little bit of time and gives me immense pleasure in the morning because my life is easier because I'm not a morning person. I take my coffee pot and I put it out when I had my Keurig so I could see in the morning to understand that my actions from yesterday affect today. Those are the things. I wrote an entire book on it called Stuck in Yesterday, but the pillar itself is simple. Create habits that change tomorrow, that make tomorrow better, that move you towards your goals. Those are the habits that you want to have. And you start small, because the first habit you create is going to be difficult. And then the next habit you create becomes easier. Creating habits is just like lifting weights in the gym. The more habits you create, the easier it gets. Think about this for a second. 90% of the habits that you have aren't created by you. They're created by your reactions to a circumstance or a stimuli outside of your control that you react to, which then creates the habit that then becomes the habit that then you have to break if it's not positive. As opposed to creating positive habits on a regular basis that allow you to move forward. That is the habit you want to have. The other thing, which goes right along with habits, is be your own change. Show yourself that change is not bad. Change things up regularly. Decide what your morning routine is going to look like, and then once you've created a morning routine, pick something in it to change to make it better. When you become the arbiter, the avatar of your own change, the world becomes your oyster because you by nature as a human being do not want change. We like security, we like certainty. But the moment that you embrace change and start creating change for yourself, the moment that that comes out of it, those two combined together are the 5th pillar. And the reason why is because they are a little bit more convoluted. It's easy to do the previous. The other pillars are simple. See things for what they are. Understand how your actions contributed to the circumstances that you are seeing for what they are. Decide where you're going to go. Decide a direction, make some goals, and then simply be in action. Doing something every day or as often as you can to slowly, minuscule, step by step, move towards your destination. What happens is this frees your ability up to choose the right dream. Then you can start defining what success and happiness looks like, and then you can model success. If you have no foundation, when you start to model what someone else tells you success looks like, you're too busy trying to hold the model together because your foundation is crumbling underneath you. Having a successful base, these pillars of success, being able to see things for what they are, being able to see how your actions affect that, seeing how to set a destination and how to be in action allows you to take a model, set it on that foundation, and build anything that you want to build. There's a couple of things I want to leave you with. Number one, the goals you set today, they're not finite. You can change them at any point in time. Seeing things for what they are does not mean blaming yourself. It means taking ownership of the things that you specifically contributed to any circumstance. Those are the keys. Those are the pillars to your success. Take them, use them, run with them. We're going to go into much greater detail in future videos, but right now, that's where you start. So start working on them, and you'll be amazed at where your life goes.